good morning, everybody. Scott Fischer back with you. Don't let Haboob hit you in the face. Kim's already smiling. Man, don't let Haboob is my characterization of or a metaphor of what happens in the lives of our loved ones that unfortunately those families that are loving those aging seniors have to often deal with or get in the middle of because these aging issues are creeping up on our people that we love. There are things that are happening in their lives that we are maybe missing or not paying attention to. And if we miss them for very long, some crazy things can happen and crisis can occur. Over my shoulder is what a haboob is. If you're not familiar with the word haboob in the greater Phoenix area, these are the giant dust storms. And over my shoulder here is Arizona State University being swallowed by a dust cloud that hit us this summer. When we all woke up that morning, we didn't have any idea that was coming. And too often the families I've worked with over the last 25 years have told me the same thing. I didn't have any idea that mom would get that diagnosis or that mom would fall and break something or that dad would. And so here you go. Don't let haboob. And today I've got my buddy Kim Ruiz here from the Kim Ruiz Insurance Agency. Kim, it's great to have you with us. Thanks for joining me today. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for having this. I also had no idea what a haboob was until I met my husband from Phoenix. So those things you're right, they take you by surprise.
It totally if you look out to the east here in the greater Phoenix area, we're in a valley and you look out to the east and there's some mountains. And you probably know this. There'll be one or two clouds popping up in the morning and you go, it's going to be a hot, nice day. It's 112 degrees. It's August. What could go wrong? Well, that by 4 o'clock in the afternoon, that dust cloud was 65 miles wide, a mile high. And then behind it was this torrential rain, flooding, thunderstorms, wind, knocking down trees, wiping out. In my brother's apartment complex, right by Arizona State University, all of the trees in the apartment complex took out a side of the building. They weren't prepared. They weren't ready for that.
Nope.
Yeah. Kim, tell everybody what you do, and thanks for joining me again. I appreciate it. What's going on in your world, and tell everybody what you do.
Thanks, Scott. Yeah, so Kim Ruiz King, Fambuli Insurance, and what we do is we love helping guide seniors and their families through transition processes as it comes through life insurance, health insurance, and retirement planning. So excited that you had reached out to us because this is something that's near and dear to our heart. And the more we work with this demographic and population, the more we find out that there is not a whole lot of education around what to think about, what to consider, how to transition into Medicare. What do I need to do with these policies I've had forever? And when you reached out, it was extremely timely because this is one of the things we're really passionate about is educating folks and making sure everybody's prepared as much as possible so that way you aren't sideswiped by a haboob without any trouble.
Right. Well, how'd you get into this space? What was your background? How'd you get into this space that led you to now encounter all of these? And I'm one of them. I turned 63, so we probably should be talking about my health insurance needs and long-term care planning, right?
Yep. Well, you know how to find me. So how do we get started? So it's interesting that whenever I was going to school, I ended up going into accounting. So I was a CPA by trade. And it's funny because growing up, a lot of us accountants never thought we were going to do accounting. And then lo and behold, several years later, I end up finding insurance. And it's just really amazing to me how life starts pointing you in different directions and you start gaining experience from all your previous iterations of your life. So I love having the accounting as my background because I'm able to bring additional resources and abilities to the table when I'm speaking with my client, because we're not only just talking about insurance, we're really looking into the details, into the financials and the goals and the needs. And so really knowing how to ask the right questions, which I gained from my public accounting days, really helped transition into life insurance and health insurance and everything else that we do.
Would you say that it really helps you see the entire picture and be much more comprehensive about the way you approach things instead of just a vertical or a lane of each one of those things and how they interplay? I'm sure how it all interacts.
Yeah, Scott, that's exactly right. So what I love about us at our agency at Fambuli is the fact that we're brokers. So not only do we represent multiple companies, I mean, there's a time and a place for every type of insurance and every type of policy and every company. But for us personally, what we found is being able to have that versatility that we're not stuck with just one company or just one product. Because as you know, everybody's facing something different, health wise, financial wise, needs wise, and we're able to really highly tailor it. And then same thing across the different disciplines as well. So I really love being able to know how the health insurance layers onto the life insurance and then in the retirement, because there's so many different plans and so many different ways that you can put together these policies. It's just so neat to have
Yeah.
all these tools at our disposal,
Yeah.
and I really love it, and really love digging into the questions to highly customize those solutions for our clients.
I bet you hear this one often. What's better, Medicare supplement or taking an Advantage plan? And the answer is yes, both or
Yeah,
whatever. Yeah,
it,
right?
it depends, right? So,
Yes.
I mean, the same thing with long-term care. That's also a hot button right now too, is long-term care. And some long-term care policies that have been out there forever, there's been changes because people are living longer. So it's costing the insurance companies more money to fund these things or policies that people have held on to forever. I mean, I've seen it with my parents where their premiums have been jumping up over time. It's still a great policy, but the thing that's neat now is there's so many different ways you can tackle the same need, but it
Yeah.
doesn't have to be a policy that can only be used in one way. And so I
I,
think that's the beauty of it.
I've got one of those older, more traditional style long term care policies with a large insurer. My premiums have gone from about $110 a month to 287 in a little over 12 years, 13 years.
Yep.
And here we go, right? And it's still a good policy, and I still keep paying the premiums, but that's going to continue to climb north, and we know that. I know that. Conversely, my wife's got a more of a hybrid policy where it's got a life insurance policy that her premiums are what they are, right? But how does that work? Because there's a rider or something that we can use for care, right?
Exactly. So depending on the policy, but right now there's a lot of policies that could be used in 4 or 5 different ways. So you get the death benefit. What we love is with these newer policies, it's called living benefits or accelerated death benefits. And those are amazing where you're able to, and I even get goosebumps thinking about it, where you can use it. I know it's possible, where you can use your death benefit to help for illnesses. So maybe you are, or your parents or somebody ends up in a nursing home or an assisted living facility because of dementia or cancer or something like that, where you can actually leverage those policies ahead of time to help make payments towards that. And then some of them accumulate the cash value. And
Right.
so sometimes people can take loans out against their policy to help pay for unexpected bills. And there's just, and you're right, some have long-term care riders where you can use it as a long-term care payments as well. So there's really a lot of different ways you can play with it.
Gotcha. Gotcha. When we were talking the first time, I guess I was struck by the sparkle in your eye, the energy that you bring in. I'm attracted to that sort of heart. I'm in a business here for 20 plus years in the senior referral and placement industry. We help families navigate the complexities of long-term care, find the right long-term care placement, usually assisted living or memory care, things like that. I'm in a very unregulated, unlicensed space, which attracts an awful lot of players, good, bad, both, all of the above. I warn people that get into my space about the transactional nature of this business. And if you focus on leads and jobs and the value of the clients, it gets very transactional. It takes the heart out of what we're trying to accomplish. Talk to me about how you might see that present in your world, but clearly your heart is about what you're doing and who you're helping in that process.
Yes, we see that a lot, unfortunately, and it comes up in different ways. So one way it could be a policy that was sold to them, and then we end up getting referred to them for one reason or another. And people have no idea what they have. Or we have other clients where they got the policy so long ago that they don't even have anybody to help them. And I've sat on the phone with them for hours. Maybe not all at the same time, but sometimes yes, where we're trying to
Unraveling that. Yeah.
yeah, trying to figure out what they have, where they need to go, how to, and the thought is, what if they have to file a claim? Who are they going to talk to? And this is also when you're filing a claim, a lot of times the family members are not in the best mental space to be handling all of that. So yes, we do see that a ton. A lot of times it's people getting sold the wrong policy where they're being told it's going to do one thing and it does something else. So it comes up a lot, or even just not being able to reach the broker or their insurance agent. That's what I've
Yeah.
been hearing.
I've seen some of these families when they need to file a claim, the original agent or broker that sold them the policy is retired, and now it's somebody that they didn't even know bought the business or acquired that file, and now we're writing an article for a local magazine here for February. We have to do it in advance, right? And the interest is in February. It's Valentine's Day. What are you doing in love for your families, or where does love come into what you do?
Mm.
And I'm thinking about you, isn't it really a loving thing for the parents to tell the kids what they're up to, or the kids and the parents to get on the same page about what the parents' needs are and potentially will be? It's hard stuff, but that's a loving thing to have, those conversations.
100%. And that I'm glad you brought that up because it was something that we hadn't talked about, but it came up while I was thinking about this podcast, is the importance of knowing where to find things. So that's so important because you're right. If the agent's not there, you have to go back to the original policy. And a lot of my clients are really, I'm so grateful for them that they're really on top of it. And that's one of the things when we do our annual reviews with our clients, we make sure, hey, what are your kids' phone numbers, or who do we need to reach out to if something happens to you? So then that way we can find them if something does happen to you and they don't know where to go. So it's super important to have all your information put together somewhere safe and let your family know where to find them. Because once again, when something happens and you're not here, and they're already lost you and they're in grief, and where did they go to find it? And it's just one thing that, could be so easy to just let them know now. And then they know that they're taken care of, and you've done the hard part.
Yeah. And there are a number of really good publications where there's books, there's fillable PDF online resources. I work with a law firm here locally in Phoenix where she's got a lot of online stuff. It really is a loving thing for parents to their children, and for the adult kids to be able to sit down, mom, and go, hey, I don't want to pry. You're very private. However,
Yes,
you've got to understand the reality of the situation, that aging is, nobody's getting out of here alive. So we have to talk through some of these hard things. Yeah. Frequently and often in love. When you work with, or when you see families that may have been with another agent or another firm along the way, what would you hope other agents would glean from your experiences, or what should they be incorporating into their practice? Because I'm imagining there's going to be other folks that do what you do, listening to what you're saying, and you've got this great way of working with families. How would you share that?
No, I appreciate that. I think the biggest thing is the policy reviews. And I'll probably keep harping on it because that's one of the biggest things that can be done to save so much pain later, and confusion or uncertainty, if you will, because what we've seen time and time again, especially if we get a client from a different agent, how many times they don't know what they have, or they haven't looked at their policies since they got it 20 or 30 years ago. And a lot of times, some of these policies that worked then don't work now, which they were good for the situation back then. But now if you don't have a big home anymore, or a mortgage, or have to put kids through school, maybe you don't have to be spending, especially what we've seen through clients that are transitioning into Medicare, Now their income has been cut substantially. So they're like, I can't pay $600 a month for my 4 policies that I had. And it's like, that's great. That's okay. You had these policies. They did what they need to do. So let's now get you in a position to have policies that reflect your needs now, that will still protect you and your family, but also not costing you an arm and a leg for them anymore.
Yeah.
So now they have, like, that's a true story. We have clients now that they have a $600 a month increase to their income because now we've transitioned it to something where they don't even have to pay for it anymore, and it's still grow for them. So the other thing real quick is knowing what they have. It's always good to review, know where those documents are, know that we're still here. So if you have questions or needs, to reach out. And then the other thing is the beneficiaries, because life changes. Make sure you know who your beneficiaries are, because it's a fact of life. You have divorces and you have deaths. And I had clients who had to contact me that are in their 60s and they've lost their kids. And so they needed to update their beneficiaries because their kids are no more.
Yeah.
So these are all things that happen. And it's something most of the time you can even go to your online portal and do it in 3 seconds. So, but it can make a big difference after the fact when something happens. They're not fighting through the court or the locality to fix things that you can do now.
Yeah. No, I really appreciate that. I usually couple that question with hey, what would you hope more people would? And maybe the answer is twofold. One, what we just kind of addressed other agents, but what would families do if they're listening to this and you're not an agent and you're just managing to navigate this and you're hearing us? What should people be doing that they're not doing?
Yep. First of all, if you don't have anything in place, get it in place as soon as possible. Because what we've seen, unfortunately, more times than I think about, is where we've had so many clients that knew they needed to do something and didn't. And then they waited. And then now they can't qualify for what they were able to qualify for even 2 weeks, a month ago.
Right.
They got the diagnosis that they weren't expecting. And so we could have covered the whole mortgage. And now we're lucky if we can get a $25,000 policy, which is still better than nothing. Yes. But don't wait. What's one thing you can do as an act of love for the people you care about? And the thing is, it's not even to protect them. It's also to protect you, because the policies can be used to help you too if you get sick or if you go into long-term care. So it's always better not to wait.
Right. And I would think for that individual that may be coming towards the end of their working career and they're heading towards retirement or Medicare age, right, at 65, we've got to elect something, even if you're still working. So I imagine there's some tidbits you have for those of us that are turning the corner on 63 and 64. That would be helpful, right?
Yeah, for sure. Well, the one thing we hear a lot when it comes to life insurance is that a lot of people just assume it's going to be really expensive or they can't qualify for it. And that's the other thing I love about being a broker is we can find something for everybody. Maybe it's not $1 million policy for $12 a month, but there's still something out there for everybody. So it's always worth the conversation, because going back to it not being transactional, if you find the right person to help you, they'll walk you through all the options and let you know, hey, there's this way you can do it, there's that way you can do it. And then you're able to decide based on what feels good to you and your needs and their options. And I think that's what most people, or I hope when most people speak to us, they feel relieved that they're not stuck in a corner because now they're turning 65 and they have to do something one way or another. It's okay. There's ways we can handle this. And if your life changes or circumstances change, it's okay. We can revisit it. You're not locked into something forever.
Yeah. And Kim, just to be really clear, you can work with folks anywhere, right? Or you look just in the state of Virginia. No, you can work with everybody.
Yep. That's exactly right. Most of us are licensed in multiple states.
Yeah.
And like I said, not to say there's anything wrong with, so we call them captive agents. So they work for only one company. There's
Right.
nothing wrong with that because I'm sure they'll give you the best plan for what they have access to. And a lot of us, if you find the right agent, a lot of us love working with each other. Some of our best business partners are other insurance agents because we find out where those gaps are and it's, hey, I can help them. Do you have something for this? And or I'm not in that state and I know you're there, here you go. So it's
Gotcha.
just we have such a great network of professionals that I know if we can't help, they're going to be in good hands if we send them off for sure.
Gotcha. Good, good. Well, thanks. I wanted to ask you for sure that I imagine through the years you've seen situations where a boob showed up and it took somebody off guard.
Yes. Yep. I knew this question was coming.
Yeah. Talk about that if you would.
Yeah, so I'll never forget it. It was a client. And when I first started in insurance, I was doing something called mortgage protection. So all the folks that we were talking to had just either bought a house or recently refinanced. And so I had met with the couple, and it was back during COVID. So we were doing all remote Zoom calls. That was the thing at the time.
That
Everybody
was
hopped
it.
on Zoom. So we were on Zoom, and this couple was the sweetest thing. They were so excited. They finally got their home together. And I think it was an early appointment. They were still in bed running this appointment. It was so cute. And anyways, we had gone through the application process and we ended up putting an application on her. She already had previous insurance, but she wanted a little bit more to help cover the mortgage. And then we did the same for him. And I think cost point wise, they couldn't do the whole mortgage, but they wanted to at least do a half or a third of the mortgage so they knew a good chunk of it would be relieved if something happened to either one of them.
Mm.
So he got in, no problem. On her, it turned out she was declined because of some undisclosed health issues. And while we were talking about her current policy, we knew it was there. We talked about beneficiaries and making sure everything was updated. And so I got a call around Thanksgiving. It was right after Thanksgiving or something like that. And he mentioned that she had passed unexpectedly. She was, not to get into too much details, but she ended up very sick. And it was because of what the doctors told her she was supposed to do. They tried to lifeline her, and she ended up passing on the way to the hospital. And the thing that was really hard about it is the fact that when he was about to propose to her, they were that much in love, and she was everything to him.
Oh man.
And so just hearing the heartbreak from that. And then the next thing I found out was that he ended up having to lose the house because she didn't change her beneficiaries to him, and it was her kids. And of course, the kids didn't get along with him. So not only did he lose the love of his life, but then his whole life was flipped upside down because of one seemingly simple administrative change that could have changed
Yeah.
the trajectory of his life. So it's insane. It's like one day I see them and they're happy and love, and then the next thing he's like, I have to sell everything. I have to move. I can't stay in Virginia anymore. And it's just, yeah.
Yeah. That's a boob. That's a boob. And we don't, as professionals, we want people to hear our honking of our horn, our call, our advisement. We want you to hear that, not because we're trying to sell you or get the deal done, is that we want you protected. We want the best outcome for you, right? And I guess that goes back to this whole transactional piece versus someone who is outcome oriented and service minded and compassionate and heart for the people that they serve. It makes you reflect because I do my world, you do your world, and there's all kinds of professionals that touch this aging group of Americans and their families. Just so that you guys know, our listeners know, in Phoenix, Arizona alone, there's 160,000 80-year-olds in the greater Phoenix area in our county. 160,000, and there's a million already 65. So across the nation, more people are now turning 65 and 18. We are becoming that top heavy society. And so aging is not something for somebody else's family. It's all of us. and we're imploring the people that are hearing us to get educated, connect with great people, Kim, that can walk you through. And if it's not your wheelhouse, Kim, I imagine you've got a toolbox full of great resources in your local market that you can guide people to when they need all kinds of things. And we have to have that in my work all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
100%. I mean, nationwide, which is really neat.
And I feel like I have a new friend in you that we need to talk beyond this conversation and how to interlace those missions so that we can impact families that need this. I don't want to use the cliche or overuse the cliche that marketing is really, in my world, just education, but dadgummit, that's what it is. And we just implore people to don't be proud, don't be too busy. Hear us.
Yeah.
Hey, before we get out of here, I want to ask you one other, maybe turn the corner on this. And I imagine there's also been a success or three in your life.
Well,
Would you talk about something like that and just take us into another story?
Yeah, for sure. I appreciate that. So lots of successes, but one of my favorites, even though it came from a not so great situation, was actually my first death claim, is a family that, once again, I had found through the mortgage protection world. And they had actually just met with somebody, or a couple months ago, they had met with another agent. So going back to how I see other agents being transactional. And so I do ask all the questions I normally ask. Hey, because they're always, hey, I'm good. I don't need any help. It's, well, why have you? Let's just take 5 minutes to make sure it's really what you think it is. Thank God, because what happened is she thought she had the full mortgage covered, which I don't even remember what it was at the time. But then when she told me the price on it, I said, there's no way you could have the whole mortgage covered unless it was an accident only plan, because those are great plans. They give you lots of coverage for not that much money, but it doesn't cover for everything, right?
Yeah.
So sure enough, we talked about who the insurance company was, and it turned out to be insurance or death benefit only. I said, that's fine, but it's not going to cover you if he ends up passing from something else. So she's like, oh, okay, let's look at that. So we start looking at it, and I start asking all the due diligence health questions. And it turns out that if I met them when they first got that policy, I would have been able to get them something that would have covered all deaths if anything happened to him, no questions asked. But unfortunately, he had a health incident since he had got that original policy that didn't qualify him now for that full coverage. But we were able to get something that we called as a guaranteed issue product, where there's a little bit of a wait before you can get the whole payout, but at least you get all your payments back plus interest. So at least she got something. So so unfortunately, he did pass within that time frame, which normally they do, but he passed within that time frame, and he was able to at least recuperate all the money plus the 10%, rather than if they kept the other super cheap policy, she would have gotten nothing. So yeah, so it's so important to review it, even if you think you're good. Just it's no cost to you. It's just check the box. It's good. We're good. No worries. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you a little haboob that's going to happen to me, and just to connect with what you've said more than once here about review. I had a policy. I have a policy. I've had a policy for 20 years. It was a term, $500,000 term policy. And I got a letter somewhere a couple of years ago saying, hey, if you don't renew this thing, it's going to term out on you. But I'm a busy dude. Letters get reshuffled. I missed the window. I've been paying for super cheap coverage for 20 years. It turns out in December. I didn't have an annual review with my issuing agent. I didn't have, I got a letter from the insurance company, and it just went on my desk with a bunch of other stuff. Am I responsible? Absolutely. Would have been nice to have an annual review or like a warning going, do not let this lapse. The premiums are going to change, but they're not going to go to the moon where they will now. They're going to go from $60 a month to $800 or something for me to keep the coverage. Do you know what I mean? And so thank you for illustrating why it's so critical as an agent who has your back. Everybody, Kim, this is the kind of conduct or the hope that we get from professionals that are in Kim's space. Man, thank you for sharing yourself and sharing your stories today, and sharing your love and care for what you're doing. I really mean that. Your smile says everything. Thanks.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me. This was great.
You guys, don't let Haboob hit you in the face. I mean that sincerely. Thanks for joining me again on another episode. We'll be back sharing more stories in our next and upcoming episodes. Thanks for being here today. Appreciate it, Kim. I'll talk to you soon. Okay.
Sounds good.
Take care, all.